Let's go over this quarterback coach. So Todd Monken is definitely pulling out his Louis luggage because he got another big-time hire, man. It's being reported that the Browns are hiring Mike. I'm not even going to pronounce this man's last name. I'm going to call him Mike B. as the new quarterback coach. Mike B has been the OC for several college programs, and he coached with Todd Monken in Tampa from 2016 to 2018.
Any Mac, Josh, and myself here tonight, and the Browns have a brand new head coach. I know Josh has dropped some of his thoughts and stuff since the hiring of Todd Monken. This is the first time the four of us have been able to get together, kind of talk it out between the four of us, talk with you guys in the chat, kind of see how we're all feeling about the new head coach of the Cleveland Browns. So I'm excited to get into this one. I think it's going to be a fun one. I think there's thoughts on like both ends of the spectrum on how you should feel about this. He has obviously a huge fan base and a ton of haters. The quickest way for the Cleveland Browns to be good is if Shedeur Sanders is good. That is the quickest way for this to be a quick turnaround, because then you can add weapons around him. You're paying your quarterback on a rookie salary. You already have a good defense. You have everything in place, and now hopefully maybe the offense is spruced up. You should want, if you're a fan of the Browns, you should want Todd Monken to be able to turn Shadur Sanders into a very good starting quarterback. That is the quickest way for the Browns to turn it around and be competitive again.
Let's go over this quarterback coach. So, Todd Monken is definitely pulling out his Louis luggage because he got another big-time hire, man. I want to see what he does with a true pocket passer like Shedeur Sanders. As long as they get together and start going over what it means to play his system. So, don't skip a single second of this video. And if this story touches your heart, give it a like, subscribe to the channel, and let us know in the comments. Where are you watching from? Let's begin. Nah, listen. After that hook, you can feel it. You can feel that something in Cleveland just shifted. Because this isn't one of those we're exploring options moves. This isn't some press release hire where you squint and try to convince yourself it matters. This was a statement. Loud, intentional, and honestly, long overdue. Let's be clear. NFL teams do not make moves like this unless they believe. They don't go reaching outside the league, pulling in a quarterback mind that isn't part of the usual recycled NFL circle unless they've already decided what direction they're going. Because that's the risky move. That's the we're not playing safe anymore move. And for the Cleveland Browns, a franchise that's lived in confusion, lived in mixed messages, lived in the same old chaos year after year, this feels different. This feels like alignment. And I know some people are going to hear outside the NFL QB coach and roll their eyes like, okay, and? Nah, that's exactly why it matters. Because sometimes the NFL gets trapped in its own habits. Same voices, same philosophies, same systems, same blame game when it doesn't work. But when you bring somebody in from outside that bubble, you get fresh thinking. You get a coach who hasn't been trained to protect his job first and develop the quarterback second. You get a teacher. You get someone who's used to building a guy up from scratch, not just managing a veteran's ego. And the biggest part? This isn't a random teacher. This is Todd Monken saying, I know who I trust. That's what jumps off the screen. When a head coach hires a QB coach he's already worked with, that's not curiosity, that's confidence. That's chemistry. That's someone coming in who already speaks the same language, already understands the system, already knows what the head coach wants when the pressure hits and the microphones get shoved in everybody's face after a tough loss. So when people ask me, why is this big? I'm like, because quarterbacks don't fail in a vacuum. Young QBs especially, they fail when the building isn't on the same page. They fail when the OC is calling one thing, the QB coach is teaching another, and the head coach is panicking by week 6. They fail when the organization is saying one thing publicly and doing something completely different behind closed doors. And Browns fans, you know exactly what I mean. You've been living in misalignment. You've been living in maybe this guy, maybe that guy, living in half commits and emergency pivots. And for Shedeur fans, y'all have been waiting for one thing. Real commitment. Not hype, not talk, not competition, commitment. Because this right here looks like the first time Cleveland's actions are matching their words. They're not just drafting or acquiring a quarterback and praying. They're building around him like they actually plan on letting him become the guy. Like they actually want him to win. And that's why this moment feels heavier than a coaching hire. It feels like a franchise choosing a lane. So the question isn't, is this hire interesting? The question is, why now? And why Shedeur? Because once we answer that, everything else starts to make sense. Right now, this is the most important thing to understand. Shadur Sanders is not just another name on the Browns' depth chart. He's the axis. Everything is quietly starting to spin around him, whether people want to admit it yet or not. Because when you zoom out and really look at where Cleveland is positioned, the picture gets real clear, real fast. Rookie quarterback economics matter. They always have. We've seen this movie before. Jalen Hurts in Philly, Brock Purdy in San Francisco, even early Russ in Seattle. When you've got a quarterback on a rookie deal, that's your window. That's when front offices get aggressive. That's when teams stop treading water and start building. And Cleveland knows that. They're not guessing. They're acting. Now let's talk about the depth chart politics for a second, because that's where things get messy. On paper, sure, there are names, there's noise, there's competition talk. There always is. But here's the reality nobody wants to say out loud. Teams tell you who they believe in by how they invest, not by what they say in press conferences, not by coach speak, by resources, by staff, by time. And you don't build this kind of coaching infrastructure for a quarterback you're unsure about. You don't do it for a placeholder. You don't do it for a stopgap. You don't hire like this for a maybe. That's where the media narrative and the reality start pulling in opposite directions. On one side, you've got analysts who still sound hesitant, still cautious, still hedging every sentence like they're waiting for permission to believe. They'll praise the arm talent, then immediately pivot to doubts. Praise the poise, then question the fit. It's always something. But inside the building, inside the locker room, completely different energy. Players respond to Shedeur. You see it in body language. You hear it in the way guys talk about him, not just what they say, but how they say it. Quarterbacks who are just another option don't get that kind of respect early. That comes from confidence, from command, from the way a guy carries himself in the huddle and in the meeting room. And the coaching investment backs that up. Early in a quarterback's career, weapons are great, don't get me wrong, but structure matters more. Coaching matters more. Development matters more. You can survive with average receivers if the system is clean and the teaching is consistent. You cannot survive chaos. And Cleveland, for once, looks like it's choosing clarity. That's why this moment is pivotal for Shedeur's career arc. This is the fork in the road. This is the point where a quarterback either gets properly built up or slowly buried under doubt, politics, and mixed messages. And everything the Browns are doing right now points one direction. Loved by players, questioned by analysts, invested in by coaches. Say it again, because it matters. You don't hire like this for a placeholder. But let's not pretend this road has been smooth, because the resistance, the criticism, and the noise didn't just disappear overnight. And that's where this story really starts to heat up. Here's the uncomfortable part of this story, the part nobody wants to sit with for too long. The doubts around Shedeur didn't start after a bad game. They didn't start after a bad practice. In a lot of ways, they started before he ever took a snap. That's how narratives work in this league. They don't wait for proof. They don't wait for failure. They get written early, whispered early, and repeated until people stop questioning where they came from in the first place. And once a quarterback gets labeled, everything he does gets filtered through that label. A good throw becomes expected. A mistake becomes confirmation. You've seen it. I've seen it. We've all seen it. What gets me is how fast competition talk shows up when certain quarterbacks are involved. Because, let's be honest, sometimes competition is real. Sometimes it makes guys better. But other times, it's just a stall tactic. It's a way to delay commitment without saying it out loud. It's a way to keep options open while quietly hoping something else feels safer. And the media eats that up. There's been this non-stop obsession with alternatives. The backup, the veteran, the what if. Every practice rep gets overanalyzed. Every clip gets slowed down. And suddenly the conversation isn't about development anymore. It's about replacement, about escape routes, about who might be next if this doesn't work fast enough. Meanwhile, confidence gets twisted into arrogance. That's the part that really frustrates me. When a quarterback walks with belief, speaks with certainty, leads like he expects to be there, that should be a positive. That's the job. But with Shedeur, confidence gets side-eyed, questioned, framed like it needs to be humbled, like it's something dangerous instead of something necessary. And we'd be lying to ourselves if we didn't acknowledge the historical baggage here. Young quarterbacks, especially young quarterbacks who don't fit the quiet, grateful, say, less than needed mold, get judged differently. They just do. The margin for error is thinner. The patience is shorter. The tone is harsher. You can hear it in the coverage. You can feel it in the skepticism. Praise always comes with a warning label. Support always feels conditional. But here's the contradiction that blows the whole thing up. If they didn't believe, none of this would be happening. You don't build this level of coaching support for a quarterback you're secretly trying to move on from. You don't pour resources into development while hoping the narrative scares him out of the building. Organizations don't accidentally tell the truth with their actions, and Cleveland's actions are loud. That's why this noise exists in the first place. Because belief threatens old assumptions. Because commitment shuts down alternative storylines. Because if Shedeur succeeds, a lot of people have to admit they were wrong, or worse, that they never gave him a fair shot to begin with. So yeah, the doubts are real, the politics are real, the resistance is real. And that's exactly why what's happening next matters so much. This is the part of the story where everything either breaks right or falls apart completely. Because talent has never been the issue. Opportunity has never been the issue. The difference, always, is development. And for the first time in a long time, it feels like Shedeur Sanders actually has a real chance to grow instead of just survive. That new coaching structure? That's not window dressing. That's the foundation. And young quarterbacks fail all the time for one simple reason. Nobody's aligned. The head coach wants one thing. The offensive coordinator wants another. The QB coach is teaching footwork that doesn't match the reads. And by the time the quarterback figures out who to listen to, he's already lost confidence. Or worse, lost the locker room. That's not happening here. When your head coach and your QB coach are speaking the same language, the game slows down, period. There's no mixed messaging, no second guessing. No. Wait. Last week they told me something different. It's clarity. And clarity is oxygen for young quarterbacks. This is why development beats survival every single time. Survival mode quarterbacks play tight. They rush reads. They protect themselves instead of attacking defenses. They stop trusting what they see because they're scared of the consequences. Development mode quarterbacks? They learn. They experiment. They grow. They make mistakes without feeling like one bad throw is going to erase their future. And that's where the analytics part comes in, because I know some fans hear that word and immediately tune out. But this isn't about spreadsheets. It's about decision clarity. It's about taking pressure off the quarterback so he doesn't have to play chess in his head while a defense is trying to rip him apart. When analytics are used right, they simplify the game. They tell the staff when to be aggressive, when to stay patient, when to trust the offense. That matters for Shedeur because his strength has always been processing and confidence. He's at his best when he's attacking, when he's decisive, when he's allowed to play forward instead of constantly looking over his shoulder. Aggressive, smart football fits him. It fits his mindset. It fits his arm. It fits the way he sees the field. This isn't about turning him into someone he's not. It's about putting him in a system that lets him be who he already is. And that's the most important shift of all. This staff feels like a support system, not a spotlight. It's not save us. It's we've got you. That's how quarterbacks grow. That's how confidence is built. Say it again. Because it matters. This is how quarterbacks grow. This is how confidence is built. Every great quarterback story has this chapter. The moment where the environment finally matches the potential. Where development replaces panic. Where alignment replaces noise. And if this clicks, it changes more than one season. This is the moment every quarterback story circles back to the moment where belief stops being theoretical and starts becoming real. Not hope, not hype, belief. And those moments don't come often in this league. When they do, they change trajectories. We've seen teams get this right before. They didn't wait for perfection. They didn't wait for the finished product. They invested early, aligned early, and let momentum do the rest. Philadelphia did it with Jalen Hurts, when half the league was still calling him a question mark. San Francisco leaned into Brock Purdy before anyone could overthink it. Baltimore built around Lamar before the doubters ran out of excuses. Those teams didn't wait to be proven right, they decided. That's what this feels like. Momentum matters for young quarterbacks more than anything else. Confidence is fragile early on. One good stretch can unlock years of growth. One bad stretch in the wrong environment can bury a career before it ever breathes. That's why timing matters. That's why belief has to show up before the results, not after. And Shedeur sits right in the middle of that moment right now. He's more than just a quarterback on the field. He's a culture driver. You feel it when he walks into a room. Teammates respond to him. He carries himself like someone who expects standards to rise, not fall. That matters in a locker room that's been starving for identity. He's a magnet not just for attention, but for accountability. And yeah, he's a media lightning rod too. Every throw gets clipped. Every quote gets dissected. Every expression gets turned into a storyline. Some quarterbacks hide from that. Some get swallowed by it. Others learn how to own it. Shedeur has never run from the spotlight. He's learned how to stand in it without blinking. So to the skeptics, let me say this clearly. You don't have to believe. Nobody's asking you to. But the organization already does. Their actions have said it louder than any press conference ever could. Coaches don't commit like this by accident. Franchises don't align like this out of curiosity. This is intent. And intent changes everything. Because if this works, and I'm not talking about box scores or fantasy stats, I'm talking about legacy. I'm talking about a quarterback who becomes the face of a reset. A guy who turns belief into identity. A moment where Cleveland stops chasing answers and starts setting expectations. That's the kind of shift fans remember. So here's the truth. Straight up. Moments like this don't come often. Not for players, not for franchises, not for fans. And when they do, you either lean in or you miss it.